I never thought my mother's handwriting could taste like poison, but there it was, scribbled on that napkin she slid across the linen tablecloth during Thanksgiving leftovers. Pretend you're sick. My fork froze midway to my mouth, mashed potatoes tumbling off like the first crack in a dam. Across from me, Senator Harlan Graves, my father's old golf buddy, now my stepfather's smug shadow, lifted his glass of bourbon, toasting to family secrets that bind us tighter than blood. And then, as if the universe had been waiting for my nod of feigned nausea, Aunt Lydia keeled over, her wineglass shattering on the hardwood floor, foam bubbling from her lips like the lies we'd all swallowed for years. That collapse wasn't an accident. It was the spark. But to understand why I ended up in a body that wasn't mine, plotting a revenge so cold it would freeze the Mississippi in July, you have to go back to the summer I turned 25, when the betrayal hit like a freight train through the bayou fog of Baton Rouge. I was Violet Hayes then, plain old Vi to my friends at LSU, studying environmental law with dreams of suing Big Oil for choking the Gulf. Life was a humid haze of crawfish boils, late-night shifts at the coffee shop, and stolen kisses with Jake, my high school sweetheart who'd stuck around like kudzu on a fence post. Mom had remarried the year before, to Richard Graves, Harlan's younger brother, a slick real estate developer with a smile like a used car salesman's and a portfolio of strip malls that scarred the Louisiana wetlands. Harlan, the senator, was the real power player, wheeling and dealing in D.C., while Richard played the loyal family man back home. They were thick as thieves, those Graves boys, and I hated how Mom lit up around them. Like, she'd traded her nursing scrubs for a designer pantsuit and forgotten the woman who'd raised me single after Dad's rig exploded offshore. The note came 3 months after Lydia's allergic reaction. The doctors called it anaphylaxis from bad shellfish, but Mom and I knew better. We'd seen the vial in Richard's study, tucked behind the humidor, ricin, homemade from castor beans he'd grown in his experimental garden. It was meant for Harlan, not Lydia. Richard had confessed to Mom in a drunken haze one night, his paranoia about his brother's Senate seat turning toxic. Harlan was grooming his own son, Preston, to run for office next, cutting Richard out of the family fortune like yesterday's trash. The ricin was Richard's Hail Mary, a slow poison to make Harlan's death look natural. But Lydia, ever the busybody, had swapped plates with Harlan at the table, chattering about sharing the wealth, while she shoveled food onto his dish. She survived, barely, after 3 days on a ventilator. Richard played the devastated brother-in-law, footing the hospital bills and whispering to the cops about faulty catering. Harlan, unscathed but suspicious, tightened his grip on the family purse strings, freezing Richard's accounts and exiling him to the guest house. Mom, caught in the crossfire, begged me to keep quiet. It's family, Vi. We protect our own. But protecting them meant carrying the weight of attempted murder on my conscience, the secret festering like mold in the walls of our shotgun house-turned McMansion. That's when the dreams started. Not the fluffy kind about white picket fences, but nightmares where I woke up gasping, my skin crawling like I'd been dipped in the Atchafalaya swamp. I'd see Harlan's face morphing into Richard's, their laughter echoing as they pinned Dad's death on me. Wait, no, that wasn't right.
Dad's rig explosion?
Official reports said faulty valve, but whispers in the oil patch said sabotage. Harlan had been on the oversight committee, pushing deregulation that saved his donors millions. And Richard? He'd been the foreman on that platform, signing off on the inspections. I dug late nights with my laptop glowing like a guilty secret. Court records, buried emails unearthed through a shady PI contact from law school. Turns out, Dad hadn't died in an accident. Harlan ordered the cut corners to line his pockets, and when Dad threatened to whistleblow, Richard planted the explosive charge in the engine room. They framed it as my fault. Falsified logs showing I'd tampered during a family visit, a lie that kept me from scholarships and buried under student debt. Mom knew. She'd signed the non-disclosure to keep the payout flowing, trading my future for a roof over our heads. Betrayal doesn't hit like a slap. It seeps in, slow and sour, until you're drowning in it. I confronted her one muggy August evening, rain hammering the tin roof like Judgment Day. Why, Mom? Why let them pin it on me? She crumbled on the kitchen linoleum, mascara streaking like black rivers. I was scared, Vi. They said they'd take you away, call you unstable. Harlan's got judges in his pocket. Richard walked in then, bourbon on his breath, and backhanded her so hard she split her lip. I lunged, but he grabbed my wrist, twisting until I screamed. Keep your mouth shut, girl, or you'll end up like your daddy, fish food in the Gulf. That night I ran. Packed a duffel with jeans, my laptop, and Dad's old Zippo lighter. Hitchhiked to New Orleans, crashing on Jake's couch in the French Quarter. He held me as I sobbed the truth, his arms steady like the levees after Katrina. We'll get him, Vi.
But smart.
No gunsling. We plotted in dive bars thick with jazz and cigarette haze, hack Harlan's emails, leak the rig docs to the press, expose the Graves dynasty as the corrupt swamp kings they were. But power like theirs doesn't crumble easy. A week later, Jake vanished. His truck found torched in Algiers. Body never recovered. The cops called it a mugging gone wrong. I knew it was a message. Grief twisted into rage, a blade I honed in the shadows. I went underground, waitressing under aliases, scraping by on tips and spite. That's when I met Doc Landry, a voodoo priestess masquerading as a pharmacologist in the Ninth Ward. Old Creole blood, eyes like smoked glass, she brewed potions in beakers instead of cauldrons. Revenge ain't clean, Sherry, she warned, her voice like Spanish moss rustling. But if it's justice you seek, I got a recipe. Body swap, soul transference. You wear their skin, they wear yours. Feel their sins from the inside out. It sounded like madness, ripped from a bad Southern Gothic novel. But desperation makes believers of us all. The ritual cost everything, my savings, a lock of Dad's hair from Mom's locket, and a vow of silence on her arts. We did it under a blood moon in her shotgun shack, candles flickering with chicken bones and whispers in Gullah. I chanted Harlan's name, visualizing a smug grin, the way he'd patted my cheek at the wedding like I was a pet. Pain ripped through me like lightning, bones cracking, vision blurring. When I woke, sweating on her palate, I looked down at hands that weren't mine, manicured, veined with age spots, a gold signet ring glinting. HG. I'd done it. I was Harlan Graves, senator from Louisiana, power broker extraordinaire. And somewhere in a Fleabag motel or a psych ward, Harlan was trapped in Violet Hayes' body, a broken girl with a target on her back. The first days were a fever dream of luxury and loathing. My penthouse overlooking the Potomac, staff scurrying like ants, briefings on fracking bills that would poison more rivers like the one that took Dad. I played the part, drawling about conservative values in marble-floored committee rooms, all while my gut churned at the mirror's reflection, salt and pepper hair, jowls sagging like the national debt. Calls came in, Richard, frantic about Lydia's episode, Mom's voice quavering on the line. Harlan, honey, Vi's gone missing again. You hear anything? I lied smooth as bourbon, promising to look into it, my new baritone voice a velvet noose. But revenge isn't a sprint, it's a marathon through hell. I started small, leaking memos to a blogger at the Bayou Beacon, anonymous drops that painted Harlan as a bribe taker in the casino wars down south. The press nibbled, but I had alibis thicker than gumbo. Then came the controversial call, seduce his mistress, Elena, a lobbyist with legs for days and dirt on every DC skeleton. It twisted my soul, slipping into silk sheets with a woman who thought she knew my touch, but her pillow talk spilled gold. Tapes of Harlan rigging the 2020 election recount in Orleans Parish, payoffs to election officials wrapped in Mardi Gras beads. I recorded it all, hidden drive in my Rolex. But power corrupts quick. In Harlan's skin, doors opened, private jets to Aspen, steak dinners with Supreme Court whispers. Part of me whispered to stay, to wield this as my own. Why destroy when I could rule? The decision gnawed. Burn it down or build higher. I chose fire, but not before one last play. Preston Graves, Harlan's golden boy, was the key. 28, all ivy polish and trust fund teeth. He slithered through Harvard Law like a gator through lily pads, now clerking for a federal judge with eyes on the DA's office. He idolized his dad, but resented Uncle Richard's embarrassments, like the ricin fiasco. I invited him to the family estate in the Hamptons, my jet, my vineyard Chardonnay, under pretense of strategy sessions for his campaign launch. We fished off the dock at dawn, the Atlantic slapping like accusations, and I probed gentle. Your uncle's unraveling, son. That business with Lydia. Ricin? Sloppy. His rod jerked, line snapping taut. Dad, it's handled. Richard's desperate. Thinks I'm stealing his thunder. But you always said family first. I nodded, gut twisting at the echo of Harlan's hypocrisy. That night, over lobster thermidor, I dropped the hook, showed him the falsified rig logs, Dad's blood on our hands. Preston paled, fork clattering. This can't be out. It'd tank us all. I leaned in, voice low. Unless you flip the script. Testify against Richard for the poison attempt. I'll bury the rest, your legacy intact. It was controversial as hell, pitting brother against brother, using a son's ambition to carve out the rot. Preston agonized, pacing the veranda under stars like scattered diamonds, muttering about blood oaths. But ambition won. He agreed at midnight, sealing it with a handshake that felt like Judas kissing Christ. I wired the evidence to a DOJ contact, anonymous, of course, framing Richard as the lone wolf, Harlan's grieving brother, too noble to suspect. The feds swooped 2 days later, cuffing Richard in his silk pajamas on the Baton Rouge tarmac, headlines screaming senator's brother plots fratricide. Mom called, hysterical. Harlan, what have you done? Richard's innocent. Lydia's allergy was real. I soothed her, drawl dripping sympathy. Sugar, it's for the best. He was poisoning the well. But inside, Violet screamed. This is for Dad, for Jake. Richard's trial was a circus. Baton Rouge courthouse swarming with gawkers in seersucker suits, reporters flashing like fireflies. I testified, Harlan's gravitas masking my glee, painting him as the black sheep who'd snapped under jealousy. The jury, good old boys with oil stains on their souls, convicted in hours. 20 to life, no parole. As the gavel fell, I caught Mom's eye in the gallery. Her face crumpled, a widow twice over. But revenge's high fades fast. In Harlan's body, I felt the creep of his vices, booze calling like an ex, mistress's numbers burning holes in my contacts. Elena grew suspicious, her nails digging into my arm one night in the Hay Adams. You're different, Harlan. Softer. Like you're wearing someone else's skin. I laughed it off, but sweat beaded cold. Worse, reports trickled in. A Violet Hayes spotted raving in a Shreveport ER, claiming to be a U.S. senator, doped on Haldol and shipped to Angola for evaluation. Harlan, trapped in my shell, unraveling. Doc Landry warned me. The swap ain't forever, BB. Souls pull like tides. Full moon next, and it reverses unless you anchor it with blood. Blood. The word hung like humidity. To stay in this power suit, I'd need to kill the real Harlan. End him in my body, make it look like suicide or overdose. Controversial didn't cover it. It was monstrous, snuffing a life to steal another. I flew to Louisiana under cover of a fact-finding tour, chopper touching down in the Delta heat. The ER doc smuggled me in after hours, fluorescent buzz like angry wasps. There she was, me, strapped to a gurney, wild-eyed and wasted, hair matted, whispering, I'm Harlan Graves. Call the Capitol Police. Her, his, gaze locked on mine, recognition dawning like a gut punch. You. Little bitch. What have you done? I leaned close, breath mingling. What you did to my father. To Jake. To me. He thrashed, veins bulging in my neck. I'll bury you. Richard's just the start. Your mom's next, whore. Rage boiled. I could do it then. Syringe of air to the fore. But mercy, or cowardice, stayed my hand. I whispered Doc's counter-ritual instead, a binding spell requiring his consent. Say it, Senator. Yield your throne. He spat, but fear flickered. Solitary awaited, a broken girl in a man's crimes.
Fine.
Yield. We chanted low, the room spinning like a hurricane's eye. Pain lanced again, but this time I held firm, Harlan's essence ebbing as I anchored with a prick of his thumb, blood smearing the Zippo's flame. Dawn broke swamp gold. I was me again, violet-eyed and fierce, slipping out in scrubs. Harlan remained, catatonic, diagnosed acute psychosis. The press called it a breakdown from the trial stress. I vanished deeper, holing up in a NOLA-safe house with Jake's old burner phone. But the high was hollow. Richard's conviction freed Harlan's empire for Preston, who ascended like cream in corruption's coffee. Mom? She spiraled, popping Xanax like candy, blaming family curses. I watched from afar, guilt gnawing. Had I just traded one monster for another? The climax brewed in D.C., a black-tie gala at the Kennedy Center, Harlan's alma mater fading him for environmental stewardship, irony thick as pralines. I crashed it, Elena's invite forged, dressed in thrift store couture that hugged like second skin. Preston cornered me in the coat room, breath hot with scotch. Violet? Thought you were dead.
Dads.
Off since the swap. Wait, what the hell? I'd slipped. The word escaped in fury. He grabbed my arm, bruises blooming like magnolias. You're crazy. But if it's true, prove it. I did. Flashed the drive, election tapes playing on my phone's glow. His face drained, ambition cracking. This destroys everything. Not everything, I hissed. Testify. Or join your uncle in stripes. The decision tore him. Loyalty versus survival. He chose the stand, leaking to 60 minutes pre-gala. Chaos erupted mid-toast. Feds swarming the ballroom. Harlan mid-speech, sputtering as cuffs clicked. This is a witch hunt. But the tapes aired live, bribes unraveling like a bad knit. Mom, in the audience, fainted dead away, echoing Lydia's fall, poetic justice. I slipped out amid the flashes, heart pounding like Zydeco drums. The twist came not in flames, but in floodwaters. As Harlan's empire crumbled, resignation by dawn, indictments stacking like hurricane sandbags, I got the call from Doc Landry. Sherry, the anchor's breakin'. That blood wasn't pure. Harlan's got a twin secret, buried deeper than bayou mud. Twin? I raced to her shack, rain lashing like God's wrath, the delta swollen from unseasonal storms. She brewed tea thick with sassafras, her eyes grave. He wasn't alone on that rig, Vi. Richard's his half-brother, sure, but Harlan had a shadow. Elias, identical, given up at birth. Mama was a maid in the grave's manse. Harlan paid her off to vanish. Elias grew wild in the Atchafalaya, Pochin, run and shine. But blood calls, Elias knew, hated from afar. The ricin? Not Richard's. Elias slipped it to Lydia, Framnin the family to watch and burn. My world inverted. The swap ritual? I'd pulled Elias, not Harlan. The wrong vein of venom. Harlan was still himself, raging in DC cells, while Elias wore my skin, plotting from the shadows. Jake's murder? Elias, jealous of the life he could have had, torching the truck to even scores. Dad's death? Harlan's orders, but Elias the planter, twin loyalty twisted dark. And Mom, she'd known about Elias, hidden him letters, a bastard safety net against the grave's machine. I thought it protected us. She wept when I confronted her in the hospital, post-faint. Elias promised revenge without touching you. Rage redoubled, but now laced with betrayal's bitter dregs. Controversial didn't begin to touch it. Forgive Mom's web of lies, or cut her loose like dead weight. I chose mercy one last time. Hired a PI to track Elias, now holed in a Thibodeau trailer, my body gaunt and feral. Full moon rose bloated over the levees. The reversal tide pulled. I faced him at midnight, ritual circle etched in grave dirt, candles sputtering in the gale. He grinned through my lips. Sister? Or mirror? We both graves now, ruined by the same hand. The chant built, souls straining like ships in a squall. But the twist deepened. As essences collided, memories flooded. Elias's rage at abandonment, Harlan's cold calculus, Dad's final scream. I saw the truth inverted. Mom hadn't just known. She'd orchestrated the frame on me for Dad's death, protecting Elias, her first love son, from an affair. Betrayal's knife twisted full circle. I was the outsider, the cuckoo in the nest. Pain peaked. I could let the swap hold, become Elias in my body, free Violet's shell for his wild justice. Or release, reclaim myself, and let the flood of truths drown them all. I released. Dawn broke with me gasping in the mud. True Violet once more. Elias slumped across my eyes vacant. Cops found him later. Suicide by swamp. Overdose on Doc's herbs. Note blaming family ghosts. Harlan rotted in Leavenworth. Preston disbarred and drunk in Biloxi. Richard died in prison shower, shanked by a cellmate with a grudge. Mom lingered, vegetative, her secrets safe in silence. Was it happy? Tragic? Justice's a bayou mirage shimmers, then swallows you whole. I walked away, lighter but scarred, enrolling in law night classes under a new name. The Gulf whispers still, winds carrying Dad's laugh, Jake's promise. Revenge taught me, power's a swap meet illusion. You think you steal a skin, but it wears you down to bone. And in America's heartland haze, where magnolias bloom over mass graves, that's the real controversy. Who's the monster when the mirror cracks? Some nights, I wonder if Elias's ghost lingers, or if Harlan's soul hitched a ride. But I light Dad's Zippo, watch the flame dance, and keep walking. The Delta don't forgive, but it forgets just enough to let you breathe.